Charlie suggests that Hamid build a solar power plant, save 3 years' worth of logistics, and form an engineering team. Hamid agrees. Charlie then tells Ruoli to rest, promising to meet with Roma's mother in secret. Isaac contacts Roma in Mochang on Wade's behalf to cooperate. Roma is shocked because the He family is seeking allies against the Su family. Luther he is prepared, unaware that Wade has already found Ruoli alive. Enjoy the story, thank you.
Chapter 2716. Hearing that Charlie said that he still has a problem that needs to be dealt with immediately, Hamid hurriedly asked, "Brother, what problem are you talking about?" Charlie said, "The last time I came to your place, I found out that your base now all depends on diesel units power generation." "Yes," Hamid said, "diesel generator sets are fairly convenient to use, but the cost is a bit high." Charlie said, "This is not a bit high, but rather very high. The cost is at least several times that of coal power." Hamid said hurriedly, "I have been implementing the strategy of saving electricity here. Basically, I don't use electricity or use less electricity during the day. Electricity, ordinary soldiers only use electricity for lighting at night, so the overall electricity consumption is not high, and the cost is acceptable." Charlie retorted, "You just didn't think about it for a long time. If you have a dozen or even dozens of fortifications in the future, then each fortification needs to be provided a corresponding power system to ensure the lighting, ventilation in the fortifications. Communication, even cooking. If this is the case, your diesel power generation will not be available at all, and the cost of fuel consumption will be very high when running at full power." When Hamid heard this, he exclaimed, "Oh, I even forgot this. But I don't have any good solutions now. The government army can't provide electricity to me, and I have no ability to build a thermal power plant, so I can only use diesel generators to generate electricity." Charlie said, "Although your area does not have the possibility of developing thermal power, you can try to develop a fixed photovoltaic power generation. The Middle East itself has sufficient sunlight, and although the construction cost of photovoltaic power generation is relatively high, the subsequent use cost is relatively low. Low maintenance cost. You only need to invest $2 or $3 million at a time to build several independent power systems that are powered by solar power and stored by batteries. This way, you can completely get rid of fuel power generation and generate electricity every day. The electricity is enough for your 2,000 soldiers to use normally. Photovoltaic power generation solar panels can be placed directly on the roof, or on the hillside near the internal reverse slope fortifications, which can also prevent enemy damage. Then put your diesel generator set in a safe cellar and only maintain it at ordinary times. Restart in an emergency to provide an emergency power supply. In this case, you are equivalent to having 2 power supply systems." Speaking of this, Charlie said earnestly, "Anything, as long as it has something to do with war, you must make an emergency plan. This set is no longer good, and you should change to another set immediately. Only in this way can the chance of survival be improved. In my heart, most of your subordinates do not have any literacy level, and you have not studied the military systematically, so your team itself has a lot of shortcomings from the theoretical basis. If you don't force yourself to think more and study more, it is difficult to survive the continuous war." Hamid also realized the importance of Charlie's words and immediately said, "My brother reminded me. I must strengthen my understanding of this aspect in the future and strive to hurry up. Improve myself." After finishing speaking, I was busy again. "I will start to work on photovoltaic power generation as soon as possible. $100 million is a huge sum of money. Many problems can be solved easily. In the future, I will try my best to upgrade all aspects. The transformation must live up to the expectations, brother." Charlie is happy to see Hamid's attitude, but also a little relieved that he can now do not expect Hamid monkey worship phase. Able to survive had been regarded as the beginning of a success. Then Charlie remembered something, and then asked him, "By the way, the people under your hand have never read any books. If you really want them to operate infrastructure equipment to build fortifications, can these people do it?" Hamid didn't even think about it. Said, "It's definitely not possible to rely on the group of people under my hands. When I mention this, they get angry. I ask them to dig a cellar. They dig a cellar, and they can dig a dam 8. I expect them to build permanent fortifications. Absolutely impossible. While speaking, he smiled and said, "But, I happen to know a friend who was in the construction industry in Iraq. He has many construction workers under his hand. In Iraq, he has long been used to the days of the war. As long as the reward is enough, they won't even go to the moon to dig a hole. I will contact him in a while and ask him to send someone over as soon as possible." Charlie said, "It's good to have this relationship. In fact, the kind of permanent fortifications I'm talking about doesn't require too much cost, nor does it need too high technical content. You can find a way to find an old Chinese movie, Shangganling, to learn and understand this. For your current situation, this movie is definitely the best teaching material. Because you are also facing a Highland war, and there is little difference in weapons and equipment. As long as you can make good use of the high ground, make good use of the tunnels, and the strategic advantages of the reverse slope to build fortifications, even if the enemy's artillery is extremely powerful, it will be difficult for them to defeat you." Hamid did not hesitate and said, "Okay. I will find a way to download it over the satellite network and watch it thoroughly, brother." Charlie exhorted, "You must take this movie seriously with respect to understanding and learning." Hamid blurted out, "Don't worry, my brother. I must study with humility." Charlie said, "That's right, when the construction workers you are looking for arrive and start construction, you must choose some clever and alert civil soldiers from your team to help and learn, so that while you can speed up the progress of the project, you can also help your subordinates learn construction experience. Maybe after a period of time, you will be able to pull out an engineering company under your hand." "Okay," Hamid said immediately, "I must find a way to form an engineering company." Charlie again said, "This matter must be dealt with as soon as possible, otherwise they may not wait for the fortifications to be completed, and your entire army will be dealt with in one fell swoop." Quote, Hamid busy, "I will start to do it today, the fortifications before that, let me keep a low key." "Okay," Charlie said with satisfaction, US $400,000 for grain, 1 million United States dollars for canned food with a shelf life of more than 2 years, and 1 million United States dollars for medicines and consumables, and 3 million United States dollars for photovoltaic power generation, 20 million US dollars to hoard guns and ammunition, and another 40 million US dollars to build permanent fortifications. The remaining money can be used as a reserve and used flexibly. Basically, you can increase your overall strength by more than one level. Get it right." After Hamid thanked Charlie so much for his kindness, he hung up the phone and immediately began to study the specific plan of infrastructure construction, and at the same time coordinated various resources to prepare for the start. At this moment, Isaac and Ruoli next to Charlie. They looked at him with shock. Ruoli couldn't understand why Charlie suddenly instructed others how to fight a war on the phone. After all, this was a peaceful age. War was too far away from ordinary people, and she didn't know Charlie went to Syria. As for Isaac, he was shocked and speechless. He was puzzled and couldn't help but wonder, "I really don't understand why the young master should help that Hamid. Does the young master want to develop in the Middle East in the future?" Charlie himself knows that a truly high-return investment is no different from gambling. The risk is high, but once the bet is won, the profit is even greater. Now that he makes a moderate investment in Hamid, it is almost equivalent to his mother's investment in those just starting internet companies in Silicon Valley. Investing in them at this time only needs to pay a small price, and once they succeed in the future, they will be able to reap huge returns. Although Hamid's armed forces are not a company, he is also a project with great development potential. If it succeeds, there will be inexhaustible benefits. Therefore, it is for him to invest more energy and give him more advice and support. Invest in the future. Moreover, this investment is nothing more than a blood-saving pill and some strategic experience, and the 100 million US dollars of real money, which is all sponsored by the Su family. Once Hamid is engaged, he will have a return period of at least several decades in the future. So Charlie didn't explain to the two of them anymore, but said to Ruoli, "Ruoli, your current identity is still too sensitive to allow you to leave freely for the time being, and you are still wrong to stay here during this period of time." Ruoli said without hesitation, "I will obey all the arrangements of the master." While speaking, Ruoli still had a sad look in her eyes. Charlie saw the sadness in her eyes, and remembered that she had been here for a long time. If nothing else, she must have missed her mother very much. Moreover, her mother gave birth to her in October when she was pregnant by herself, and then dragged her up. Now that she is unclear about her life or death, her mother must be very worried. After thinking about it, Charlie opened his mouth and said, "Ruoli, you have cut off contact with the outside world for so long, your mother must be very worried about you, right?" Ruoli looked very gloomy when she heard this, and nodded gently. "I miss her, she must still be looking for me everywhere. If she doesn't find my body, she can't believe that I'm really dead." Charlie nodded and said, "Let's do it, you give me your mother's contact information, and I will let someone bring your mother to Oris Hill. Then you can meet your mother." Ruoli was immediately surprised. Asked, "My dear master, do you really want me to meet my mother?" Charlie nodded and said, "Of course, you will meet again, but you still have to make sure that the news of your life is not leaked to other people. At most, only your mother will be allowed. People know, so you can't let you take the initiative to contact your mother. Otherwise, if your mother knows that you are alive, emotional, suddenly uncontrollable, and then tell other people, once the news leaks out, it will be very troublesome if it reaches the Japanese. With their perseverance to catch you, they will definitely apply for extradition to Japan for trial." Of course, Ruoli understands Charlie's caution, so she hurriedly said, "Then, what do you think?" Charlie said, "I asked Mr. Isaac to invite your mother over in the name of the Wade family, but I won't tell her about you. When she comes, I will take her to meet you directly. What do you think?" Ruoli said with red eyes, "My dear master, as long as I can see my mother, if she leaves, I will be satisfied. If it is really inconvenient, even just make a phone call." Charlie smiled and said, "It is better to let your mother come to Oris Hill without knowing you are alive. That way it will be more controllable. If she has enough time, she can stay here with you for a while. We can claim that she is here to talk to me about cooperation. After all, I heard that when you had an accident, Su family completely turned his face with He family. At this time she can come to me to talk about cooperation, and it will not arouse other people's suspicion." Ruoli nodded and said excitedly, "Thank you, benefactor. Then everything has been arranged through hard work." Charlie looked at Isaac and said, "Mr. Isaac, you will remember Ruoli's mother's contact information in a moment, and first communicate with her in the name of the Wade family to see if she is willing to come over. If she is not interested in cooperating with me, tell her that the young master of the Wade family wanted to talk to her about dealing with the Su family together." Isaac hurriedly said, "Okay young master, I will implement this later." Charlie turned to look at Ruoli and said, "Ruoli, give Mr. Isaac your contact information, and then go back to the room to rest." "Okay, master." Northeast Desert City at this moment. This small town is one of the coldest places in China. Even though it is the end of the first month, the minimum temperature in Mocheng still reaches -17 to 18 degrees, almost the same as the freezer compartment of the refrigerator. During the coldest time of the winter, the temperature here can reach about -50 degrees. The He family, one of the 4 major martial arts families in China, took root in this county-level city with a population of less than 100,000. The ancestors of the He family were not native Mocheng people. They originated from the Jiaodong Peninsula. During the Ming and Qing dynasties, they were well-known martial arts families on the Jiaodong Peninsula. Their ancestors have always lived by playing darts and running martial arts schools. However, at that time, the He family mainly practiced outside martial arts, so they were far from the level of the martial arts family. Until the end of the Qing dynasty, when the Jiaodong Peninsula was turbulent, when the He elder and his family broke through the Guangdong, by chance, they obtained a fragment scroll of the inner family boxing method. The reason why it is said to be a fragmented scroll is mainly that nearly half of its content has long been lost. There are many defects in both the boxing method and the corresponding mental method. But even so, after the He family moved to the northeast, they relied on this incomplete inner family boxing technique to rank among the martial arts family. Moreover, the inner family boxing method that the He family got is very incomplete, so when the family is training hard, the internal force is often disturbed and the meridians are reversed. Once this happens, it can be severely injured for several months. The martial arts was completely abolished, and many younger generations even died as a result. Therefore, the He family gradually came up with a response plan, which is to practice this internal martial art in extremely cold places as much as possible. The extremely cold weather helps to better control the internal force, thereby reducing the probability of accidents. Because of this, the He family moved to the coldest desert city in China a few decades ago, and then took root here. Ruoli spent her childhood and entire teenage years here, and her mother, Roma, had been living here since she broke her arm to save Xin and rarely left Mocheng. However, in the recent period, Roma has been running outside for almost half of the time. At first, when Ruoli was arrested in Japan, she heard Xin say that he would save Ruoli, and went to Japan to see Ruoli in person, so that she could rest assured to wait for her to return home. Unexpectedly, the news that Ruoli was missing and that old Su betrayed Ruoli soon came out. Since then, Roma spent most of her time in Japan looking for Ruoli's whereabouts. Although she knew it was a needle in a haystack, she still tried her best to search for a long time in Tokyo and surrounding areas, and then spent huge sums of money to hire search and rescue ships to search in the Japanese waters, and even search in coastal areas in China, but she never found any relevant clues. She had just returned from the southeast coast the day before yesterday. This time she ran through several key port cities, and still hadn't heard any news of anyone sneaking ashore. She knew very well that the longer time was delayed, the less likely it was that Ruoli would survive. So, she discussed with her father Luther He and planned to raise some more funds, and then search the coastal areas of the Jiaodong Peninsula to see if she could find Ruoli's whereabouts. In this regard, Luther He, the head of the He family and Roma's father, was a little embarrassed, and said, "Roma, your eldest brother has talked to me these days when you went to the southeast coast." Roma hurriedly asked, "Dad, eldest brother will talk to you, what's the matter?" Luther sighed and said, "In order to find Ruoli, our He family has sent out most of the manpower and various expenses during this period of 1 or 2 billion. There is still no news, which has delayed these children's practice. Not to mention, our He family has now turned their faces with the Su family and lost the source of income. If we continue to look for her, the economic gap will become bigger and bigger." Speaking of this, Luther continued helplessly, "The family is only for the children. The medicinal materials we prepare for practice cost 3 to 5 million a month. With so many people and so many mouths to eat and drink, the cost is even higher. Although I also want to find Ruoli, I continued to look for her. Going down, as the head of the family, I can't explain to other people." Roma lowered her head slightly. She also knew in her heart that it was impossible for the He family to keep investing in finding Ruoli's whereabouts. After all, the family as a whole is not a wealthy and rich family, and the daily expenses are huge. Some time ago, she invested a lot of money to find Ruoli, which made her feel very guilty. Although she felt sorry for her daughter and wanted to find her as soon as possible, she couldn't bear it. Drag the He family into the quagmire. So she said to Luther, "Dad, I understand what you said, otherwise, I will go find her myself." Luther sighed, "If you find yourself, it will be a psychological comfort at best. You know, finding her is like finding a needle in a haystack. We have hired so many people and so many boats, and the cost per day is tens of millions, but still can't find any clues. What use is it if you go alone?" Roma fell silent all at once. Luther hesitated for a moment, and said helplessly, "If it really doesn't work, you should go to Xin. If Ruoli was betrayed by Su family, even if he did not participate directly, he would have to bear certain responsibilities. We will not talk to them now. Right or wrong, let them put out a certain amount of funds and resources to find Ruoli." Roma said with a complicated expression, "Dad, I don't want to meet Xin anymore." Luther asked in surprise, "If you leave this matter, just forget it with the Su family." Roma smiled bitterly, and said, "Xin is nothing but the puppet that the old man of the Su family, he will come and go. It can't solve any problem with him, and the old man's style is cold and cruel. Leona was the second lady of the Du family, and the old man did not let her go. If I go talk to the Su family for an explanation, for fear that the whole He family will be implicated." Luther said with helpless emotion, "The shamelessness of the Su family is indeed far beyond my cognition. Now Chengfeng's reputation has been completely ruined. I am afraid that he will be more smashed in the future, and he will have to take care of his face before It may be completely shameless in the future. After that, he said again, we have broken with the Su family now and have lost the biggest source of income. We still have to find a new master as soon as possible. Although the martial arts family has a good reputation, but I don't have the ability to make money. I can only rely on a big family that is willing to spend money. What do you think about this? Roma shook her head and said, Dad, let me tell you, what I think of every day is if I leave, I can't concentrate any energy on other things. I'm running around these days and I don't even have the energy to think about what to eat for a meal. Every time I feel hungry and exhausted, it's directly within my sight. Find the nearest restaurant, and use the fastest time to fill up my stomach. After speaking, she bowed apologetically and said, Dad, I can't help you during this time. Please forgive me. Luther nodded. Comfortingly said, you don't have to blame yourself too much, I understand this kind of thing very well. When it comes to this, he can't help but sigh, and said, it's just that you are the only one in the family who sees the problem relatively deeply. Your brothers see the martial arts practice. With well-developed limbs and a simple mind, coupled with the fact that he hasn't read any books, the understanding of the problem is indeed a bit superficial for him. Roma asked, Dad, do you have any general plans now? Luther said, I probably thought about it. I still put the main family of cooperation within the scope of Eastcliff. There are many large Eastcliff families. In addition to the Su family, there are also the Wade family and the Gu family. In family cooperation, after all, the enemy's enemy is a friend. I believe the Du family must have such a plan. Leona's existence is unclear, no one knows whether she is alive or dead. They cannot suffer from this dumb loss. Roma nodded, forced herself to think for a moment, and said, Dad, these three families are very strong. If they can cooperate, it's great, but I still don't recommend cooperating with the Du family. Luther hurriedly asked, why? Roma said, the Du family is in a special situation, not just for the future generations. It's not bad, and there are people in high positions, so even if they are extremely dissatisfied with the Su family, they are unlikely to cooperate with our martial arts family. If it is spread out, it will affect their reputation, and it is not easy to explain to the outside world. Luther suddenly realized, he blurted out, no wonder. I always feel that the Su family is a bit unlucky now. The ocean transportation business is so large and strong, but the license is suddenly revoked. It seems that it is probably the work of the Du family. Yes, Roma said, the Du family will definitely choose reasonable and legal methods. Even if they use the rules of the game, they must be within the scope of reasonable and legal limits. But in their eyes, we martial arts families are walking in the marginal gray area of society. These people will definitely draw a clear line with us. Luther nodded and said, I understand, it seems that I still have to find a breakthrough in Wade family and Gu family only. After finishing speaking, he stood up and said, Roma, in this way, I will give you another private transfer. 10 million, you go to the Jiaodong Peninsula and look for a piece of news or sign again. If you still can't find Ruoli this time, Dad suggests that you also face the reality appropriately. If she is still missing, you can't watch yourself and the whole He family languish. Roma nodded gratefully and choked up, Dad, thank you. Luther waved his hand and exhorted, don't tell your brothers about this, do you understand? I understand, Dad. Just as Roma finished speaking, the phone rang suddenly. A strange number with Oris Hill extension. She was a little surprised, but still pressed the answer button, and said, hello, who is it? At the end of Isaac's polite call, is it Ms. Roma? It's me, who are you? Isaac hurriedly said, hello, Ms. Let me introduce myself. My surname is Isaac Craven. I am the person in charge of the Wade family in Oris Hill. People from the Wade family. Roma was so shocked that she couldn't say anything. She was talking to her father about the Wade family, and even her father wanted to get on the line with the Wade family, and their representative is contacting her himself.